So this is the third film within the last month to come out that's also the third movie within a franchise. Just to put that in perspective. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Adorkable Rachel, and it's time once again for another episode of Rachel Reviews, so let's just hop into it. War for the Planet of the Apes is a film that I have personally been waiting about a year for with much anticipation. I did see the original Planet of the Apes film from 1968, and it did leave a pretty expected, but still kind of average impression on me. But I finally checked out the first two films from this reboot series, and right away I was hooked. But that is the key word here. It's a reboot, technically. As far as I know, it's not supposed to actually be like a direct connection to the original franchise from the 60s and 70s, but I've also been hearing that the filmmakers might actually plan to make more films that'll eventually lead up to the beginning of the very first film from 1968, so I guess technically, whether you want to call it a prequel or a reboot or just call them both, I mean, either way I think it kind of works. But anyway, regardless, this series is pretty damn fantastic. In fact, I love these films so much that I actually got the Blu-rays of both Rise and Dawn, and I definitely plan to get the Blu-ray for War as well. Why? Because War for the Planet of the Apes is by far the best of all three of them. It is that good. Already in the first two films, we saw Caesar the chimpanzee, played by Andy Serkis, gain intelligence, lead an ape revolution, defend his ape clan, and now in this movie, a group of military guys, some of the only remaining humans on the earth, are coming to kill Caesar and to be rid of the intelligent apes for good. And Caesar, of course, just wants nothing more than the ape tribe to live in peace and to be left alone. But after a couple of really intense scenes in the beginning, Caesar now feels that he must take drastic measures to protect the apes, as well as battle his inner demons for wanting to take revenge on the humans for their sadistic crimes against them. Woody Harrelson plays the colonel and the leader of the military group, and that's all he goes by in this movie. He's just the colonel. We don't know his actual name, just the colonel. He especially hates apes, and he will do everything in his power to make sure the humans overcome the ape clan. So now it's the start of an all-out war between the dying race of man and the apes, who are more and more becoming the superior race. Something that I especially love about this film that we don't have as much of in the other movies is that there's a lot of really quiet and intensified moments where we're just focusing on the characters and their facial expressions, and that's how we experience what they're going through. The apes do communicate through sign language and with subtitles for the audience, thank you very much, but that means we're also constantly relying on their faces to convey the emotions rather than hearing it in the dialogue. The agony, the anger, the hope, the confusion, the sadness, all of it is achieved through the facial expressions of the actors behind the motion capture. And whoever out there says that motion caption artists don't deserve awards for their acting is dead wrong, because seriously, this is some of the best acting I've ever seen of a non-human character in a live action film, and it's also some of the best motion capture that I've ever seen on screen. Andy Serkis, as always, is phenomenal in this movie. His character Caesar has a very conflicting arc in this story, and even if you haven't seen the other films, I really do think you can feel the emotional weight on his shoulders and really see it in his eyes just what he's been through the years. And yes, it's an amazing performance, even if Caesar does kind of look like he's always smelling the most foul fart in existence. I know that's really immature of me to say, but that's what it looks like. I also love the acting of a lot of characters in this movie, especially of the orangutan Maurice, because he's just so cute when he takes in this girl who can't speak and she eventually goes by Nova. You're starting to see the connections here, Planet of the Apes fanatics. And for an actor who has absolutely no lines in this movie, she does a damn good job of driving a connection with her new CGI ape family. And if you haven't already noticed, the apes look so real in these films, but especially in this one. And it's not just because they look real, it's also because they have very distinct characteristics and personalities that you want to spend time with. And you want to know what's going to happen to them. I mean, really, how often can you say that from beginning to end of a film, you felt so much for a group of CGI apes? Because that is exactly what happened to me when I watched this film. Of course, there are going to be a few moments where you do see that there is motion caption there, but for the most part, just about every single shot in this movie made me believe that there is an ape in that environment. We also surprisingly have some comedy relief in this movie in the form of a character who just goes by Bad Ape, played by Steve Zahn. And you'd think that something like this would kind of get old really quickly, but he actually is a very genuinely funny character, and we do sympathize with him. Oh, and even better, he's not in the film that much. He was just a nice little addition of comedy in a really dramatic film that, again, we didn't really have in the other movies. And hey, he also brought to light the answer that yes, there are other apes out there just like Caesar who are intelligent and can talk, and it's not just the ones in this one particular clan. It's happening. It's happening! The apes are taking over! Woody Harrelson, like I mentioned, is in this movie, and while he doesn't play a really big role like Caesar, he's still, every time he's on screen, he just really gets under your skin. And the only time in the movie that there's any kind of heavy talk about the past or any exposition is this one discussion that the Colonel and Caesar have together. Well, I mean, it's mostly the Colonel talking, but whatever. But it's the Colonel explaining why he's hunting down the apes and why he's taking such drastic measures and why he just has no mercy for their kind. It's a very, very, very infuriating scene to watch, and it's not just because he's a sick, sadistic asshole, it's also because now that we know his past, we do surprisingly sympathize with him. And we also can see it in Caesar's eyes that he is just angry about it, but he also does kind of have a little bit of empathy for him. It is just such a powerful, powerful scene with so many conflicting emotions. Since we're now getting closer to the downfall of mankind, we actually do end up going back and visiting the virus issue that was in movie 1 and how it's now kind of cementing the apes as the superior race. Obviously, there's two sides in this story. There's the humans who just want to survive and who want to get rid of the virus, and then we also have the apes who just want to live in peace. You can see both sides of the situation or the argument or whatever you want to call it, and it really does ask the questions. What would you do in this situation? Would I do things the same or would I do them differently? I mean, would my mind change if things were so drastic? And yeah, I love it when movies can genuinely make you think things like that. Makes you realize that we're all just a bunch of flawed human beings no matter what choices we make. And it also does show that the apes in this movie are just as human as real people because they basically go through the same motions that we probably would. Something else that I noticed about this movie is that it has a really big tendency to play with your expectations. In the very beginning of the film, we're introduced to a couple of characters, and if you're a moviegoer like me, then you kind of would think right away, oh, yep, they're gonna die by the end of the film. I just know it. And right after I discovered this, 5 minutes later, no joke, they're dead. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't expect them to die that quickly, but okay. It does things like that in this movie. You'd think that one thing's gonna happen or one person is gonna think a certain way, but then it kind of takes a turn, but the payoff is always really satisfying. And by the way, this film actually doesn't really feel like a war film because there is a lot more drama than there is battles going on, but still, when there is a battle going on, it can get pretty damn violent. The movie even starts with the humans just attacking the apes to the point where apes are being killed left and right and bombs are going off and there's apes flying all over the place. Yeah, it's pretty intense in some moments. There's also a lot of war imagery in this movie to the point where some shots are very easily reminiscent of the Holocaust. And I know that's really scary and also pretty effective to some degree, but there is still a part of me that looked at those shots up there and I was just like, oh, yeah, I get it. Yep, got it. I see what you did there, movie. But regardless, this is still just one of those movies that, from beginning to end, it just felt flawless. The pacing was great, and the characters, and the action, and the suspense, and even the imagery, as, you know, kind of obvious as it was all still very clear and motivated. I will admit though, there was like one or two scenes where I felt like the characters might have changed their minds kind of quickly, or even just kind of shifted who they stood with, kind of like, you know, just like a light switch. Maybe I missed something, but I felt like heads turned a little bit quickly at some moments. Also, not gonna reveal anything here, but there was just one scene that kind of felt a little obvious to me, and this was my reaction. Guys, do you not see that? They're right there. There's lights and everything. How do you not see that? You'll probably see what I mean when you actually see the movie, so if that bothered you too, feel free to let me know in the comments. Very, very little details. Other than that though, this movie was practically perfect. The only other issue that I might take with it is the title. Because despite the movie being called War for the Planet of the Apes, there's surprisingly not that much war going on. At least, not any more than there was in the last film. In fact, this movie does kind of play out more like an escape movie rather than like a battle movie. In my personal opinion, I think the titles of these films should have gone in the order of Dawn, War, then Rise. That just seems to kind of make a little bit more sense to me. And I know the filmmakers have said that they're gonna probably make some more films based on this reboot, but honestly, the story's kind of done, guys. This right here would have been a very, very satisfying conclusion to a very gripping and thought-provoking story arc, so why keep going? And by the way, when you actually see this movie, I think you'll know what I mean by this story is done. But who knows? I mean, maybe they have some other stories for these apes or for some other apes and some spin-offs, I don't know, but they did really well by these films, so I don't know, who might have stopped them? Very, very, very rarely do all 3 films in a series seem so perfect, but that is what happened here. And the 3rd one was, again, the best. I don't know what else to say except for that War for the Planet of the Apes is an excellent film, and whether or not you've seen the other movies, I still highly recommend it, and it does surprisingly kind of stand on its own. Go and see it on the big screen as fast as you can because, guys, it's worth it. So those are my thoughts on the brand new War for the Planet of the Apes film. So now I want to know, did you guys get a chance to see it? And if so, what did you think? Have you seen the other films? Have you seen the original franchise? Or was this your first time seeing the Planet of the Apes? Do you think they should keep making more movies? Do you think they should keep going until they finally get to the beginning of the very first film from 1968? And also, were there any other little details that I completely missed? What are your thoughts? Well, go ahead and leave your comments below. Be sure to like and share. And if you're new and like what you saw here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And also be sure to hit the little bell button down there to get notified when new stuff comes out because I make new videos every week. Bye, Adorkable Buddies. I'll see you soon.